We're an anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week.
Yes.
But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting.
Yes, I see.
By a civil majority in the case of purely internal affairs.
Be quiet.
But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more
Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look. Just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs.
Welcome one, welcome all, and it is that time for Roundtable Live here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be rolling on till 4 a.m. in the morning Eastern time. New ideas, different hosts every night, different subjects every night. You never know what's going to happen right here at the Roundtable Live. King Arthur has nothing on us. We're going round and round.
Hello, welcome to Wild at Heart Roundtable Show. This is Noreen Helpband, and I'm broadcasting you live from Southern California, where it is 9 p.m. Pacific. I think it's standard time because we had to reverse our clocks here on the West Coast. And on the Revolution freedomslips.com website, if you look at the schedule for Studio A, this show is on 12 midnight Tuesday. It's at the top. I don't know. I think I have my camera on. I know it's on. So anyway, just give me a thumbs up. Okay, everything's cool? Okay. So Revolution Radio is a listener support station. So if you go to the top of the website, you can hit the donate button and you could donate money. You could become a Patreon. Let me see. You could become Patreon. You could also donate money to you can't call me back. This is Skype. If you call me back, then the server will drop. So if we can just not worry about the camera, then okay, if that's okay. Thank you. Sorry. Anyway, okay. Yeah. So if you want to donate money to keep the station going, that would be great. It's there's many ways to support the station. You can also buy products that say Revolution Radio on them from the Zazzle store. You can also send a check or money order made out to Revolution Radio and mail it to staff member Terry Ackerman. Her address is at the bottom of the page. Now, we have a special guest tonight. We have a very nice, caring, determined person, which is awesome. He's just awesome. And his name is Billy. I have your email here. I could say your full name, but you go by TK, I think. So it's Billy Te Kahika. TK,
well done. Well done. That's really well done. Well done.
Really? That's a Maori pronunciation. So it would be Billy Te Kahika? Kahika.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. There we go.
Great.
And there we go. Oh, I've got you guys now. That's lovely to see you. And no, it's a good old Māori name, that one. And what we normally say in beautiful New Zealand, where I'm from, we normally say kia ora, which is our national greeting, which is a Māori greeting, and that essentially means long life to you, kia ora. That's what we say. So it's it's a lovely greeting. So it certainly is one of those nice things that we like to say to everybody. So thank you for having me on the show tonight. I really appreciate it. It's been quite a day here in New Zealand as we have protests today that are very, very significant, and so it's been an amazing opportunity today to get on the show and with you and to talk about what we're doing here in New Zealand, in light of course, what's happening in the United States, which we all follow very, very closely here in New Zealand. So it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Noreen.
Oh, No, I mean, I think the timing is perfect. By the way, just to get some of the technical things out of the way, to start, um, if I'm not on the camera, like you said, you can't see me, or I think there's a default photo up here. So just let me know let me see if I can try again. I don't know how your show operates. Forgive me. So
No,
I don't know.
there you go. There you go. You're here. You're there.
Okay.
You're
And
here.
then my
I've got.
friend.
I think I've got Nick
Okay.
as well.
Yes, Nick, he's on there. And I guess our webcams are on live, I suppose. I don't know.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
You are welcome.
Okay.
Welcome to Freedom Fighter News in New Zealand as well. And Nick seems like a very pensive, handsome man in the background. Nice to meet you too, Nick.
Yes, I'm very pleased to meet you, and very excited about some people not hearing about people who aren't putting up with this anymore. Let's go get our lives back.
Amen. It's been something that for those of us that have been watching geopolitical affairs for a long time. I'm ex-military, New Zealand Army, and one of the things that I did in my stint in the Army is I did the military intelligence courses, the intro courses, and got to learn the basic rudiments on how to gather and assess intelligence, how to put it together and be able to pull out some logical potential outcomes and narrow that down into the most likely outcome that conditions are going to deliver. And what we've seen really is really the end game come into view in a way that it hasn't before. I feel. I mean, 9/11 really was the beginning of it, of the ramping up of the attack on freedom, especially in the United States with the Patriot Act, the Reauthorization Act, Military Reauthorization Act, the removal of posse comitatus in the United States, which was a huge series of events in terms of freedoms in the US, but that ricocheted around the world in the way that travel would be securitized, with all these people that get paid too much to stand at the end of a queue, groping people. But I must say, every time I've been to the United States, and I've been to the United States a lot of times, the TSA have always been very kind to me, and so I don't have a problem there. But in light of what we've been dealing with since December 2019, but it really didn't lift off until January, February. It's pretty unprecedented. In fact, when COVID-19 was declared an epidemic, I was in Chicago. So there you go.
Yeah, I think I recall that. Anyway, no, thank you for doing a very thorough introduction. Oh my goodness, thanks for this show. And I know that you are to my listeners. I just want to let them know that we are simultaneously being broadcast on your end. On your end, something like just name off the name of your site, if you don't mind.
Sure. So I'm at Billy Te Kahika official. What I could do is possibly put it in the chat, but Billy Te Kahika, it's spelled TEKAHIKA, Billy Te Kahika official Facebook page, and I've also got a YouTube channel, Billy TK official at youtube.com. But we've got, I'm just double checking now, we're heading up to we're getting a few people coming on board, which is good. So I did a broadcast earlier today. Most people I've had on online with me at one time was about 4,200 people.
Wow.
What's happened, of course, I am a major target of government agencies, of Facebook, so I'm restricted. I did a livey before, just a quick unannounced livey, had about 150 people on that. But what happens, it goes very viral quickly because my beautiful support base, and they're listening to me now, I'm going to hit the share button and hit the share button and hit the share button again because that's how they support me, because they know that I'm I'm terribly and horribly restricted. It's terrible, actually. That's what they do.
Right. Now, for my listeners, they're not as maybe familiar with you, possibly, so maybe some are. But so I just want to tell them a little bit more about you,
Sure.
a little bit more details of your background. Because, well, you are a pastor, you're a New Zealander, you grew up in New Zealand, and you are of Maori descent, but you're also a descendant of a Maori. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly.
Yes, you are. You're doing pretty well.
Maori, okay, Maori chief. So, you have quite an interesting background in New Zealand, and then you got into politics, I would say maybe, would it be correct to say maybe before COVID, but I think the pandemic really got you very active. Would that be correct? I'm just trying to
No, it's actually the other way.
Here.
No, very good. Mostly right there. No, really, I've never had any desire to be involved in politics. I don't like politicians.
Okay.
I don't trust them. The only guy I like in politics, the guy I like in politics at the moment is Rand Paul. That's the guy I like at the moment, Senator Rand Paul.
Oh yeah.
I think he's neat, and Marjorie Banks Green. I think they're onto it. Basically, senators like Ron Johnson. Unfortunately, we can't name one politician in New Zealand that is actually standing up for rights and freedoms and medical and health integrity and sovereignty. Not one. And so this is not one. This is a major issue. Now, what happened was last year I began doing. In fact, I'll go back a step or two. So after the pandemic was declared in the United States, I came back with my family. I was in the United States playing concerts in Chicago with Buddy Guy at an elite blues at an elite blues club that he owns called Legends, and I actually played with Buddy there and opened up for him at a big concert there.
Oh, how nice! That's interesting.
Yep. And came back to New Zealand with my beautiful family. And, I basically, the way that I interpreted what was happening with the WHO announcements, etc., is that here we finally have it. We have a United Nations Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 population reduction program in play. So my thoughts were, right, they've finally done it. They've released a bio weapon that's been lab generated, and they've released the population that's going to go around the world, and it's going to wipe out a lot of people. So I locked down immediately with my family and I, and basically made sure that everyone I knew was safe, locked down, and we did it 10 days ahead of the country. But what happened was, as you do, is that you get stir crazy in lockdown, and so basically what I did is that I started to study and research, and immediately within the hour of starting this research, I discovered major problems with the narrative surrounding the epidemic and the pandemic. This would have been early March now, and it just didn't add up. And the further I went into it, the more I looked at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the more I looked into Tony Fauci, the more I looked at all the universities and laboratories that they're funding, the more that I saw the crossover of people and players and actors that were all connected to the narrative, and blatant conflicts of interest. I knew that we had a major problem, and then I started going down the rabbit hole, I guess you can call it, to where you just insatiably research and investigate the narrative, because once you get a taste of the corruption, that only whets your appetite to know a lot more. And so I went down that way. And what I also did is never done a live broadcast before in my life on Facebook. Never done anything like that. So I decided that I would do Bible studies, talking about the books of Daniel and Revelation, the two main books of prophecy in the Bible, in particular focusing on Daniel chapter 7 and Revelation chapter 13 to 18. And in light of the current events that I was seeing, and I was able to very precisely sort of connect the dots between what I was seeing from a prophetic point of view to what was actually going down in real life. And I was able to look at it, I was able to tie it into Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, able to talk about the global warming aspect, because that's a major threat that's gonna appear very, very shortly on the world stage, and in terms of liberty and freedom, and also the World Economic Forum. I was able to really penetrate those topics, and in light of Bible prophecy, and it went viral. I mean, I was basically calling it out, without any fear of retribution or whatever. I knew that in saying these things, I was going to make myself a target, and that became very true.
Oh, right.
But within a short time, I became a viral identity on Facebook and in social media, totally unexpected, never planned. And with that came the demand that I form a political and stand as a politician, which was a completely alien for me. I'd never ever considered it, never had any ambition to be in politics.
Right. So this all came up for you very suddenly because of this situation, and I think that has happened to a lot of people. They didn't think that they were going to be out in the forefront with this COVID circumstance, right? Let me see, I'm looking at the bullet points that I wrote here from your email. Basically, after you got forced into this situation and very more public with it, you ran against Jacinda, what was her last name here? Jacinda, what?
Jacinda Ardern, our Prime Minister.
Right, okay, I wasn't sure, Ardern, okay, there we go. Right, so, and you were number 3, you were ranked 3rd as a preferred Prime Minister back in July of last year. Wow, that's really amazing. I was reading that.
Well, what's amazing is that a virtual, political nobody came out, and that happened. And it was, I'm sure the media hated talking about that, because our media here in New Zealand, mainstream media, you think you've got it bad with CNN, think again, we've got it really bad here in New Zealand. Our media,
that's bad.
I know, believe it or not, I'm telling you, New Zealand media is the most corrupt media sector in the planet. I haven't seen anything that rivals the dishonesty that we see in the criminal complicity that we see.
Let me tell you, I don't know if you keep up with it here, but we're probably gaining on you guys. I mean, we're probably catching up. Although people are really pissed off now, though. But anyway, yeah.
Oh yeah, and so what we have here is a very established public opinion poll agency called the Colmar-Brunton poll, and whether they liked it or not, I was ranked number 3rd equal as the 3rd preferred Prime Minister. Now, to give you some example of how strange that is to happen, we'd only started as a unregistered political group the month before in June, and the backstory is that I was getting asked more and more to stand as a political voice for the concerns of the people. I thought about it, I prayed on it, I didn't want to do it, and I knew that I'd be slandered, I knew I'd be attacked by everyone that ever had a beef against me, and but I thought, this is something that transcends way beyond my ego, my reputation. This is about my children, their children, and everybody else's babies and children. It was never just about me and my family. It was always about everybody.
Of course.
We have a proverb, a Māori proverb, and in Māori it is pronounced like this: He aha o te mea nui o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. And what that means in English,
Means, interesting.
Yeah, in English that means, what is the most important thing in the world? And it is the people, the people, the people. And it was based, so it's a beautiful Māori saying, that one, which was, very instrumental in making me think, well, why do you make a stand like this? Is it for yourself? No, I don't want to be a politician, but the fight for freedom and honesty and integrity and decency, the fight to make a stand against communism, which my forefathers fought against, Nazism, and lost lives and body parts and all that. I'm an ex-soldier, and I took that very, very, very seriously. That we needed to honour all those people that serve our country and served our country, and somebody had to speak up against what was happening, because it's going to affect everyone. Even to this day, I pray for the police, the military, of both of which I've been a member of, that they will see what's going on and wake up to it and stand with the people.
Right. Wow. Yeah, looking at, okay, so you were very popular. You had like 30,000 votes.
Yeah, but
that race, yeah.
Yeah, but we really do believe it was a lot more than that. We do, but
right.
We're not gonna. We had over 70,000 people in our database network. We had the third largest political party in terms of MPs, in terms of in terms of MP candidates. We were big. We were the fastest growing political party in history in New Zealand. Nothing ever has been like it. Nothing will be like it, I doubt, again. And I was given the privilege of being at the front of it, but again, it was nothing that I didn't sit there with my life planner one day and go, right, I'm gonna stick my neck out and become a freedom fighter. But we still have a very, very big following. And again, what I'm trying to do now is in the last couple of months, I've taken on a role as a pastor, and it's been a great privilege and honor to do that. For me, it's the greatest privilege and honor that I've ever had in my life to minister to people. But I've also found myself a counselor, which I've been since day one. I have people that message me all day, every day, that are just very, very distressed in New Zealand, and from overseas, people contact me.
Yeah.
And so I take it very, very seriously that God's put me in this position to help give people calm, hope, peace, and truth in light of the Bible, and truth in light of what we can see is happening. Because, like I said earlier, the media in this country is incredibly corrupt, and they need to hear the truth from somewhere. And, talking about my dear friend Vinny Eastwood, I haven't spoken to Vinny for over 3 months now.
You're restricted to, according to this information.
Yeah,
wow.
We are restricted. We're not allowed to talk to each other. I mean, I was under house arrest for 3 weeks. Vinny did 6 weeks, I believe, under house arrest. I had my bail conditions varied, but then again, he had full access to internet. I only had partial access to internet so that I could do my ministry work, which is very important. One of the great ironies of this is that I've actually been playing a role, whether the government realizes it or not, or even wants to admit it, to actually help people stay calm and on solid footing and keeping peace in their spirit, because there are a lot of fearful people, but a lot of fearful people have turned into angry people. Now, fear and anger together, breeds harm, either for the person carrying it or someone they might dish it out on. And to me, as a Christian man, as a man of peace, it's very, very important that I play a role to stop these people who have got a right to be hurt, angry, and fearful, and from hurting themselves, other people, and end up locked up in jail. That's really important. And the flip side to that, the deceived people in the military and the Ministry of Health here in New Zealand that may want to invade people's medical and health sovereignty and even their properties to roll out these injection campaigns, there is a strong likelihood that these people are going to get shot. I've had people tell me that if anyone turns up on their doorstep with a testing kit or a vaccine kit, they're going to get shot. And to me, that would be an absolute disaster. That for the person getting shot and the person shooting, because they're going to end up in jail or shot themselves. And to me, that would be a great disaster. So my role has been to do that, play that role. But I haven't been allowed to talk to Vinny for all this time. Our rights and freedoms, mine as well, have been greatly restricted, and I'm still got to go to court for this. And yet within our Bill of Rights, we have the New Zealand Bill of Rights 1990. It's guaranteed, and even within the COVID-19 Act that we have here now in New Zealand, the Health Response Act, there is a guarantee that peaceful protest is guaranteed. And I was arrested, and Vinny was arrested at a peaceful protest. It was as peaceful as you can get. For goodness sake, I'm a grandfather, I'm a husband, I'm a pastor. The last thing I would ever want is to cause any type of community harm or people harm. And yet that, we were targeted. It was already decided that we were going to get arrested before then. And so they executed that operation to arrest us. And instead of what they normally do, which is to arrest you, process you, and let you go, they kept us disappeared for 28 hours. No one knew where we were. We were gone in the main prison in our largest city.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, Vinny was describing some of this to me on air the last time, and then I'm reading some of this, and you're reiterating some things that you brought to me here in this information, but then other things I didn't know. I want to just backtrack a moment when you were saying that, because your role over there socially is to comfort people. And then obviously I'm looking at, you mentioned in this email about probably since COVID, and this is global, right? This situation with the suicide rates very high. I just want to say it on air. I think it's important if I say we have massive numbers, this is what you wrote me, massive numbers of people committing suicide, including 60 children over the previous 12 months, which is unprecedented. Yeah.
We've never had, this is, and I want to say and I always say this in my broadcasts, and I'm saying again now, I always say to people, if they need to talk to somebody, reach out to Lifeline, reach out to friends, to family, and if they've got nobody, email me at billy@ibc.net.nz, and within the subject column say, Billy, I need a call, I need help. This is my cell number. Call me. I do it.
Oh yeah, you did include that information in this at the end of this email you sent me. You put that on there, and I was so impressed because not everybody is that personal, and that's neither here nor there. But you're so personal. You wrote yours truly, Billy Te Kahika, and you wrote your office, home, and your cell. Now, this is a New Zealand phone, and I don't have an international phone, but hey, we got Skype, and I can email you. But yeah, I'm going to share. This is the email that you don't mind me sharing in the chat, one that you have here.
Sure.
Yeah, I might do that because, believe me, there are people very isolated because of the situation, as you know, and they do need to reach out, and they really do. They have to reach out. They don't know, and this is really, really good, that you do this.
Well, thank you. It's a blessing to do it, to be able to have the energy and the wife that supports me in doing it, because going back to the suicide issue here in New Zealand, we have the highest statistical rate of suicide per capita in the planet. Now we are a country of just under shy of 5 million. The previous statement that came out a couple of months ago about the suicide statistics for the previous year, we had just under 700 people commit suicide. 2 years before.
That is a high ratio, isn't it, per population?
That's massive for New Zealand.
That's
that is incredible.
Crazy.
2020 was very high, but 60 beautiful children ended their lives, and to me that is just, it's unbelievably unacceptable. To give you some idea, we started a national lockdown about 8 or 9 weeks ago. No, longer than that now, jeepers. And on August the 18th it was. And when the government announced that they were going into what we call a level 4 lockdown, we had people commit suicide on the night that was announced in New Zealand. The next day,
Wow. If I may ask you, your lockdowns must be pretty severe in the sense of high restrictiveness for people to do something like that. That's wow.
Well, it's the business destruction. We had business owners commit suicide that had taken out mortgages to save their businesses from the previous lockdown damage, and this was just too much, and they couldn't handle it. The next day we had young people commit suicide. They should have been at school, and they didn't, because the level of mental health issues that we have in our country are unprecedented. We haven't had anything like it before, not like this. Mental health is an issue in our country, but this is beyond. And the thing that deeply concerns me is that there's no justification for any of it, for the lockdowns, for the measures that they are using. This is this virus that's never been isolated, but that we now suspect that the recombinant design of the mRNA has now created a spike protein that is being transmitted. Pfizer have admitted it. Now, but this unisolated virus still has an infection fatality rate, an IFR, of 0.12%. So you've got a 99.7% chance of surviving this illness that's never been isolated. And obviously, the older you are with comorbidity, you're more at risk. Obviously, the younger you are, the healthier you are, the lesser the risk you will be presented with. Now, the issue I have is we've had 700 people commit suicide in the last year or so. We've had so many people damaged by the injection rollout, and this is by our medsafe.govt.nz, which website, which has the report on harm, like VAERS, that the CDC has, Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System. We've got that here, and that has reported 30,000 events of harm in New Zealand, 30,000 harmful events. We have had 1,000, listen to these numbers, 1,051 people have had serious side effects. They admit 94 people have been reported as dying immediately after the jab. Now, this is government information, Noreen. This cannot be argued with. It's not my information. We know the on-the-ground reality is higher than these numbers, but these numbers are still ghastly. And what we have here is a virus that's killed 28 New Zealanders over 20 months. Most of them are seriously elderly people, Noreen, and most of them have had comorbidity, which had they caught pneumonia, pleurisy, the seasonal flu, that would have killed them. But of course, when they used the faulty PCR test, the polymerase chain reaction test, which has now been removed for use across the United States laboratories by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we know that we've got major problems here. We've had 5,000 cases and 28 deaths. So there's your infection fatality rate. Yet we have all this incredible harm. There's no justification. This is about control.
Completely. 100%. I think also, I mean, maybe I would think that it's possible you might agree with this. I think ever since the beginning of this pandemic, pretty much from the start, I felt that it could be like a bioweapon. So
immediately.
There's different.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was.
Yeah, and the reason I say this, Billy, is because there's a reason. Because some of my friends that have had this, right, and it seems like the bioweapon is expanding for whatever, and it could be because of the I call it the jab on my show. Okay, I try not to say what word I use, jab, whatever,
Yep, me
because the
too.
jab and the spike proteins, that could have, like you were stating, that probably has proliferated the situation even worse. Okay, so but getting back to the bioweapon factor, a couple of my friends that have had this have told me they could feel something weird in the air, like something being sprayed, and then right away they would get a reaction. But fortunately, they haven't been vaccinated because they cured it at home using vaporizers and all that. Okay, and we know about the alternative, you know, remedies like ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, and all that stuff, right? So then my friends were doing vaporizing. So, but the way they described it, because I haven't had it, but the way they described it was they felt it in the air. So I'm thinking right away bioweapon, okay? And so basically everything that you've said before just now about, how this is played out in your country, it's not the only country where it's played out this, of course it's playing out here in the US and other countries, right? In the same manner, all the same problems. And so I know it baffles people like us that the handwriting has been on the wall for like a year for many of us, right? Or maybe even before, really, but for half the population, maybe it's true in New Zealand, half the population here in the US, it's like a 50-50 war, right? 50% think more or less the way we do about it. And then there's others that they've fallen for it. They believe in the mandates. They become mean about it. You know what I mean? So it's such a mind control psyop. Now in New Zealand, is it about 50-52 in terms of people that are against the situation or for it or fear it, don't know what it is? And is that kind of similar?
I reckon it's getting that way. I do.
Yeah.
I mean, back to your point, I concur with everything that you've said. We know that, the psychological warfare operation that we're dealing with here has a couple of different components. It's layer upon layer upon layer of deception. And what you have here really is that you've got, they're going on at the moment, about Anthony Fauci and gain of function research, okay, to basically develop a chimeric coronavirus and turn it into SARS-2 COVID-19. Now, because they've never isolated it, I doubt very much whether there was actually ever a base manipulation and a gain of function of a virus. This is my particular view on it. But what I do believe they've done is that they have created a recombinant design of a virus, because we've always got to remember that the mRNA doesn't have a live or dead culture of a virus in it. These are recombinant, computer designed components in this injection. That's a major problem, and so what we see now is the proliferation of this illness through the variant. Now, the variant, of course, is the variant which they say is a different HN, whatever they want to call it, because it's gone and mutated, therefore it's a variant and all that. But Pfizer have admitted that, and in fact it's in the media all over the planet, that double jab people are still transmitting the disease to previously uninfected people. So what is it are they transmitting? Are they transmitting the base primary virus, or are they shedding the variant, which is the recombinant computer design one? And that's what I believe that we're seeing. So the idea of this gain of function business, I think is a red herring to distract people from the reality of it, is that they have created this computer generated recombinant bioweapon. But the problem is,
that's a key that you just said. Yes. Mm-hmm.
It is, and that's the psychological operation that they're using. Pummel the fear into people, say that this thing has, escaped the lab or whatever you want to say, but in reality, it's a targeted weapon. It's a targeted bioweapon operation where it can cause enough of an issue to create the fear paradigm that they need to destroy rights and freedoms, collapse economies, and pit societies against each other within societies. Now, that is Marxism 101. That's communism 101. That's, World Economic Forum
Yes,
agenda,
exactly.
Agenda
All of it.
2030.
Mhm.
The apex, in my summation of things, the apex program that all of this sits under, whether it be the World Economic Forum, whether it's the scamdemic around the climate change argument, whether it be COVID-19, it all sits under the desire to see Agenda 2030 brought in, United Nations Agenda
Yes,
2030.
definitely.
This is where it's heading, and when you understand the breadth and width of what's contained in the mechanism of control in Agenda 2030, you will understand it controls everything. But the underpinning issue of all of this isn't banking. It's not resources and minerals. It's not military. It's not any of that. It's spiritual. The United Nations, which is the activation arm for all of this, is has spiritual goals. These aren't good goals at all, and they admit it. I've just done a series called Peeling the Onion of Deception series over the last 8 weeks, and we finished the finale on last Friday. And it's about peeling that. We looked at everything: the World Bank, how the World Bank has operated, World Economic Forum, how they've gone around collapsing economies and through debt obligation and taken assets and control, but feeding it back through the World Banking Group, which is a part of the United Nations as well. And then whether it goes into the environmental / climate change argument. Now, I'm an environmentalist. I'm green. I live in a beautiful country, rural environment. I live on a farm. We're growing food. I'm a greenie. Don't make no mistake about it. But I'm not a Green Party. I'm not a Green Party greenie. And that Green Party greenie wants to bring in Agenda 2030, which will bring in environmental communism. And that's why they've been so crafty to blend the environmental issue with the climate change issue, because of course it was global warming. They could not sustain that, so they turned it into climate change. So all these points that we're talking about, Noreen, is what I campaigned on last year, and no one was campaigning on it like that. I was talking about everything, including geoengineering, including 5G, because the way that I see it, you either deal with it all, or you're lying.
Well, Billy, all these factors you brought up, I talk about on my show, and other hosts on the station do, and out in the YouTube world or Rumble or whatever, because what's happening is that seems like civilization is getting hit by this agenda on all fronts, right? The ones you mentioned are common, but also, I don't know about New Zealand, but here in the US, they're also attacking the institutions, right? The universities and the grade schools, so it's across the board. We got food. We're starting to get food supply shortages. When I go to, this is not here nor there about COVID per se, but just an example of the food situation is when I go to the market, sometimes I have to have like beef or lunch meat that's beef, something like that. And I notice some of the stores do not even carry what they did before the pandemic. They don't carry it. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll just go to another store and get it. And I try to, I've made 2 attempts to have a garden, right? I mean, I grew some really delicious vegetables, but they failed. So I'm going to try again. But I'm thinking that's why a lot of people now are trying to do like what you're doing and what I've sort of been doing, is to create your own food source as much as you can, and to stock up on whatever you think you might need. But yeah, we're being hit on that level, but it's just insidious on all levels. You know what I mean? It's all levels. I don't know if you know this too, but there are some other regions of this world where they're not even doing this. Like parts of Africa, the people are not jabbed, right, as much, not even nearly, I guess. They take natural remedies if they do come down with COVID. I don't know about the political daily life, because I think each country is different. I'm just using Africa as an example. But I think Nick, who's on the call with me, do you want to talk a little bit about your friends from Pakistan and what they said? They said there's not much of this going on there, is there, when they go visit their home country?
Well, the information last time I talked to him was a few months ago now, and my friend who is from there, I do some work for him. He owns like 20 highway tractors, and so I help him with his yard. He's building to park trailer, and he took his family to Pakistan last it was last winter. And what he found was that there really weren't they weren't paying much attention to masks. There weren't masks enforced. Um, you know, uh, life is pretty much normal, where at least where he was from in Pakistan, in Punjabi province. Uh, but wasn't even, I swear, it wasn't even a month later, and I heard the usual story. I mean, wherever you hear, oh, they're not, they're pretty liberal with these restrictions. Next thing you know, oh, big spike in cases. Oh, they're all resisting in certain areas of the UK. Their low jab rates, and oh, lo and behold, there's a spike in cases there because they're not taking the jab. So yeah, I can give you first-hand accounts, but as soon as they leave there and come back, all bets are off. I can tell you what they saw when they were there, what happened afterwards. Everything is in flux right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, Nick, because it just kind of shows you how inconsistent, right, this whole agenda is worldwide. In other words, here in the West, because New Zealand is a Western country, we're getting hit left and right with this agenda on every level. But as Nick was talking about in Pakistan and regions of Africa, and even south of the border here, right, in Mexico and South America, I'm hearing that the rates of being jabbed, the mask, and this whole COVID culture is lower. Now, I know it depends on maybe the country, right? I can't sit there and say, oh, it's lower everywhere. It's just that it might depend on which country in Africa, which country in South America, and so forth, or Asia, or whatever. But a lot of these attempts are lesser. And my theory on that is because of infrastructure, right? I mean, I think that kind of explains why the more what we would call less modernized, more what they call third world conditions probably lead to less infrastructure, which it kind of works out for them right now, right? Less infrastructure means less capacity to get jabbed, have to put on a mask. And I'm just being very general, okay? Of course, there's exceptions, but the thing about this is that just because we're getting it first, they're going to try to do this over there. You know what I mean? That this is a global attempt, as we know. So it's not like those people are going to be not approached with this later. Hopefully it won't get to that point, okay? Hopefully it will not go there, because we're trying to stop it here, right? In the West, we're trying, us types or whatever, we're trying to stop this now before it gets beyond these areas, and starts to spread over into restrictions on every continent in every country, because we know that's the goal. But it seems to me, Billy, like the fight is right here, isn't it? Like where we're at, basically.
Well, it is, and the thing is, distance between countries has no bearing on any of it. If you look at, here's a little thing to consider. Our Prime Minister in 2008 to 2009 was the president of the International Union of Socialist Youth. Right.
Wow.
The International Union of Socialist Youth is a communist incubator. She was the president of it. Now that was kept very, very quiet. She's also a member of the Global Young Leaders Club, which is a World Economic Forum supported initiative, and these all sorts of programs around young people and leadership all around the world that is really about gaining the hearts and minds of young people and turning them into communists. And that was decided upon a long time ago that they would take that route. If you look at going back to your point around the countries that haven't locked down, and infrastructure has a bearing on it, because without the infrastructure to deliver their program of injection, there's no method base for them to be able to logistically deliver and execute their program.
Right.
And so it becomes harder and harder for them to go into places like India, northern India, into Pakistan to do these things. But if you look at in Africa, where you had the president of Tanzania, purposely set up a sting operation to catch United Nations, World Health Organization vaccinators, catch them out on their own game using the PCR test, which was he had suspected was fraudulent and not admissible or enforceable or usable as a diagnostic tool or as a method to justify this epidemic. So what did he do? He took the PCR test and he went and tested a goat, a mango, and a whole bunch of other non-human things. And guess what? This was worldwide news when it happened. And guess what? All of them came back COVID-19 positive.
Oh,
so right
really?
then and there, right there and then, he booted them out of Tanzania, told the whole world about it, and said he was working on another form of treatment for any of them. The problem is he died 3 months later, and some of his cabinet ministers with him. The same thing was repeated.
That sounds very suspicious, huh?
The same. Well, Kerry Mullis, Professor Kerry Mullis, of course, the stunning professor microbiologist who actually developed the PCR test, the polymerase chain reaction test, actually said months and months, consistently up to his death, 3 months before the epidemic, that the PCR test was never to be used as a diagnostic tool because it was never designed to be one, and it cannot distinguish between this and that. And if you load it up with primers, you will be able to find anything you want and test for anything you want and find it. So how did they do it? The PCR test was loaded up with about 7 to 9 primers, which are so broad they are found in bananas and mangoes and goats, and and the more revolutions and cycles that you use to extrude your result, then the more likelihood you are going to find COVID-19, and that's anything more than 35 cycles, you're going to get a 97% chance of a false positive, and that's what we've had, and that's where other countries like Portugal have ruled that the courts there have ruled that it cannot be used and cannot be used to justify a lockdown. You've got other countries. Yeah, you've got countries all around the world that have picked up on this. Unfortunately, it's kept very quiet. Now, the earlier point you made about the universities, I wanted to pick on that because that's where they have been targeting for decades now. The whole.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yes. I mean, I'm all for, wifely and womanly rights. My wife is a beautiful, strong Māori woman, and she keeps me on my toes just as I like it. But the point is, feminism was a campaign that they were going to use.
Yes.
As part of the Marxist ideology in universities and campuses.
Of course.
Now in socialism, now it's the LGBTQ movement. It's the same thing. And what it is, it's that basic fundamental principle of you're not like me and you don't agree with me, therefore you're mine enemy. And that's how they've done it. And that's how you destroy free capitalist, democratic and free societies. It's been proven time and time again. And don't get me wrong, I've got, this is when I always say this as a disclaimer, is that I've got homosexual friends and I love them dearly. I would protect them and their rights. I don't support their lifestyle choice in that area, but I love them anyway. They have to answer for their decisions, for their lives to God, and that's got nothing to do with me. And so this is not about the principle of someone being free to choose what they want. It's about the principle of not having their lifestyle forced on anyone else. And that comes down to personal sovereignty. And so I've been a propagator of that preaching, if you like, of personal sovereignty, because I believe it's God given. Every human on this planet was born and given by God the right to believe whatever they want, and anything less than that comes from the other guy. And so what we see in New Zealand, in our country, we have a sexualization campaign of young kids in our younger schools, 5, 6, 7 years of age, right up until 17 years of age. We have sexualization of our children.
There's some break music. I was going to say, we'll be back probably in a few minutes at the top of the hour. Okay, Billy and Nick, this is Noreen Helpman, Wild at Heart Roundtable Show, and we'll be back in a minute. Stay tuned.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Be evasive. But that doesn't mean that they're telling the truth as opposed to fiction.
In Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, indicating that there were giants before the Nephilim.
And sons of God, plural. They weren't talking about Jesus coming down.
No, that's right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm Steve Crawford, host of Factor Theory Live. Join me every Sunday night from 10 p.m. till midnight Eastern Standard Time on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Check it out.
Transcending time and space, let us take you to the place inside your mind where thoughts divide and mysteries unwind. Join us every Monday evening right here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And you will catch the Fenton Perspective with our great host, Noreen Fenton. Come listen in as she shares her amazing stories from the past to present, along with all of her guest secrets to the future. That's the Fenton Perspective every Monday evening right here from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time, only on Revolution Radio. Oh, and you don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Galactic Interstellar Council on Revolution Radio, Studio A, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we traverse the starseed paradigm, as expressed in the time-space continuum that we know as the divine expression of love and light. Integrating this conscious unity into the galactic paradigm. So welcome all, both terrestrial beings and galactic beings as one. So be it. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
If you think for 1 second that the Capitol will ever treat us fairly, you are lying to yourselves. Because we know who they are and what they do. This is what they do, and we must fight back. You can torture us and bomb us. Fire is catching. And if we burn, you burn with us.
Good evening.
Are you awake yet? I hope. We've tried and we've tried for years and years to use passive resistance and loud voices to make a change. The time is over. Your governments around the world have no other goal than to decimate your entire existence at the hands of the bankers and the elites. The war is coming, and it's your choice to decide if you want to be a warrior or a victim. Denial is not a choice anymore. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the planet. Not giving up. Revolution Radio.
Welcome back to Noreen Helpand's Wild at Heart Roundtable Show. Okay, anyway, I have my guest here, Billy TK, or his actual name. I like practicing it. I know sometimes it's not perfect, but Billy Te Kahika. Yeah, I always try my best. It's a cool name.
You're doing so well.
Thank you. The language sounds very well. It's Polynesian related, right? The Maori people are Polynesian, I guess. So that language, when you were speaking it, it does have a very Polynesian sound. You know, I'm not familiar with Maori much. I've been to Hawaii, which is Polynesian, but I think their language is probably very different from yours. I would assume because of the distance.
Yeah, we actually are ethnically the same people with the Hawaiians. Sure. New Zealand Māori are, and they've got a lot of words that are exactly the same as ours. For example, they say wahine, which means woman. It means woman for us, wahine as well. They say come here. They say aere mai. We say haramai.
I didn't know that.
They say their word for a man is kane, ours is tane. So it's a swapping for
very close.
Yep, very much so. And you know, moana is the ocean. They've got a heap of words there. I've spent a bit of time in Hawaii. It's really, really beautiful. It really, really, really is. And I've worked all throughout the South Pacific. I've been just about everywhere. And I grew up in a very much a deeply Pacific Island community in South Auckland, and grew up with, you know, aunties and uncles that were around me. I had Dutch auntie and uncle across the road. I had Samoan. I had Cook Island. I had Tongan. I had, you know, just every Fijian, you know, every type of South Pacific person that you can think of. So for me, you know, the language, wherever we go around the South Pacific, we hear glimpses of our language repeatedly.
I was going to ask about that. Even is there a cross between Maori and Samoan and Tahitian or somewhat Fijian a little bit?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, no, there is completely. I mean, like for me, I've done a lot of work in Samoa and a lot of work in Tahiti, and you know, our Samoan family and us are very connected. A lot of words similar, but in terms of direct language, the Tahitians are they have what we call the root language to our version of the Polynesian language of Maori. They call it there's a particular word I can't think of, right? Malay, Austronesian or something like that. But
Austronesian, Malay or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, so I was going to ask you if there's any connection with the Filipino Tagalog, because I know that has some of that, but I wasn't sure if you can hear any crossing into theirs. I don't know, or the Malay language.
Yeah, Tagalog is quite different to ours. I've got a number of Philippine friends. I mean, I'm quite a linguistic type of person, and you know, you can sort of. I think if you go back far enough, you're going to find phonetically, you know, linguistically some common ancestry there. You know, which makes sense. Right. And but I love sort of going around the Pacific. I speak a little bit of French when I remember it. So when I go to French Polynesia, it's a mixture of French and Maori for me. So I move around quite nicely in French Polynesia very well actually. And you know, in other sort of French-based you know, colonial countries like New Caledonia, Vanuatu, they speak French. But linguistically, you know, you can, if people speak slow enough, you can certainly pick up a lot of words. It's a fascinating thing. I love it, and it's unfortunate that because of these lockdowns, we've all been separated from each other.
I know. I know. You know, another interesting thing about the Polynesian language, you say there's like this common thread, through all the languages sort of in the Pacific, but think about the vastness of the distance. It's amazing. There must have been like a core root culture that spread because their language is connected. More so than in Asia, because like Chinese, Japanese, Korean, and Vietnamese are all fairly distinct languages. And those people are closer. In the Pacific, you guys are spread out, and yet there's a little bit of a core linguistic tie there, which I think is amazing. One added thing about language is, I was going to ask you if you happen to know, and I should probably look it up, whether the indigenous Taiwanese people, if their language has some root to you, and there's a reason I'm asking if there is. Okay.
It does.
The reason,
it does.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing because.
We have a lot in common with the indigenous Taiwanese people. They have found DNA markers that connect us as well, very closely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then you just confirmed what I thought. Yeah. The reason I say this is like
we look the same.
Yeah. Well, there's an out of Taiwan theory, right? They might have been the originals, but I don't know. That spread out to the Pacific. I'm not sure. But,
there's a few conflicting stories about that. We've got, even in our Māori culture, we've got stories to the songs of the East. And there are stories and connections with our sweet potato that we have. Our potato is called a piru piru. And the same piru piru. And of course, the same potato comes from where? Peru. And we have right. So we have kumara, which is also propagated around, the western side of the South America, especially. Something really cute and funny, like in some of the indigenous languages in the Amazon where I've been, to urinate, they say they're going to have a mimi. Now, and mimi in our language is the same thing. To urinate is to have a mimi. And so it's very cute, and but we have got traditions and names and markers that tie us to South America, and we've got.
There you go. I think at one time there was more of a different culture in the world that we can't even know. It's like amazing.
Well, I think the memory, the memory of how we are all brothers and sisters remains in all of our cultures.
Sure.
And I believe the Bible. I believe exactly what it says, that we come from, we are progeny from the same root base, and so I believe in that. But here's a little in terms of distances and navigation abilities of our peoples. Is Captain Cook, of course, the English naval captain that didn't discover, he chartered for the British Admiralty, New Zealand, Australia, French, Tahiti, and other places like that, Hawaii. He picked up a Tahitian Maori from Tahiti and brought him to New Zealand. His name was Tupaia, and Tupaia was his Polynesian interface between the islands that he was Captain Cook was traveling with. And he got to New Zealand and he said he could not believe it. Tupaia, who had come from thousands and thousands and thousands of nautical miles away, was speaking the same language to the New Zealand Māori that greeted him. So he was able to translate for Captain Cook from Tahitian Māori, or Maohi as they call it, to New Zealand Māori. Maohi, yeah. So, and that was pretty amazing stuff for him. And he realized then that the capabilities nautically and navigationally of the Polynesian people were just far superior than anything he could have imagined. So we're very proud of it. We have a natural affinity with the sea. But one thing I will point out is, most of the non-Māori people, like our European family, my mum is of French and Irish ancestry. My dad is Māori. And, a lot of non-Māori New Zealanders have grown up equally as at home and close to the ocean. It's in our ethos. It's in our blood. It's in our being. It's in our blood. It certainly is.
So your mother's side is
There we go.
French.
A little bit off track, but that's all right.
No, that's okay. Your mother is a
I'm
French
talking about
background?
those things at all.
Your mother's a French background?
Wow. You know what? I was just blocked on Facebook.
Oh my goodness. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. I'm afraid
Sorry,
there might be
have.
audio.
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right.
There's
What
something,
happened on Facebook?
there is something going on here. I was just completely blocked.
Wow.
I knew this was happening. It was happening while I was online with you.
You know, I have to tell you, I checked the Facebook link that you gave me, and it looked to me like it was a show from another time.
Sorry,
it didn't even look like
Noreen,
the one that...
are you there?
Yeah, are you there? Yes. Oh my goodness. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
So something very, very weird is going on.
Yeah, I was making a comment about Facebook. You know the link that you sent? I hope you can hear me.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Okay. When I went on there about half an hour ago.
Keep the TV off, please. Yep.
When I went on half an hour ago, it looked to me like it was a broadcast of a different show you did before, not the one we're doing now. So something, I don't know what's going
weird.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, well, they've just completely stopped my show. Completely. I've got 0 viewers. Completely.
Wow. Well,
So,
you know what's ironic is we segued into a non-COVID topic for the last few minutes. We've been talking about, Polynesian culture, and yet they did it now, which I thought, well, I don't know what's going on with that, but that's kind of funny to me. But
yeah, it is. So it says your video is blocked and can't be viewed in 250 locations.
Wow. Nick, do you have any comment about what's going on with that? What do you think?
I'm a little bit shocked. We have had interruptions before, but this is the most genuinely seemingly infiltration that I've ever witnessed.
Yep. Yeah. This is what we deal with in our country. This is Facebook working with the New Zealand government to do this.
I see.
It's not the first time.
It
is.
Wow, you are worse in here. Oh man. Yeah, I believe you.
I'm just going to try something.
Okay.
This is really serious. This is serious. Just going to go to camera 1 here. Reconnection successful. No, it shouldn't be reconnection successful. I'm going to go and stop. I'm having to stop recording and streaming. Just 1 second. I'm going to have to start that again. Boy, this is truly unreal. Truly unreal. Really, this is really. Let's see how this goes. Start streaming. Start recording. Okay, part 2. Let's see if that's going to go. Nope. It's not going to go.
Well, I want to rest assure you that even if your Facebook recording or whatever doesn't go through the way you want,
your side.
Yeah, well, it's not audio.
Right.
I mean, it's not video though. It is audio, but we'll send you. I'm going to send you, a link for YouTube for my channel with your show. So you get all the audio. You will get all of it. Yeah, no problem. You won't get the video, but you're welcome. But you will get audio. Nick is really good with putting together a little slideshow. I might use your images from your website of you interjected into the slideshow.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. That's absolutely fine by me.
Okay, then you'll be getting a link. So you don't have to worry that all is not lost on this end. Is what I'm saying. Yeah. For
that's
your.
Great.
Yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm. So how's it coming along? Still the same?
Here we go. All right. Okay. I'm back, but they're saying we're going to see if it's going to work here. How incredible. This is really, really serious.
Well,
now I'm just going to speak to my audience 1 second, and here we go. Sure. I can see you. You're back. I'm back. Okay. That is amazing. So what they've done is, hold on, okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you're coming back right now. I'm just trying to get a fix on what's happening here. Let's see. Yes, we've got people coming back. Please take note, everybody. I have been attacked by Facebook. They blocked the last video and have stopped it from being going out to 250 locations wherever they may be. I think they may be United States based. I'm not too sure, everybody, but you need to know that this is really deeply serious. This is an infringement on our freedom of speech in our country. This is an American, this is an American-owned conglomerate, and they are absolutely unbelievable. So they've just sent me a message from the last part one, shall we call it, and saying that my broadcast has been restricted to from going to 250 locations. Now I don't know what that means, but this is not good. But I do know that instead of having a couple of hundred people on watching this now, I've got 35 viewers, which is unheard of. I don't even think I ever had that. 39 viewers. So please, everybody, hit the share button, hit the share button, hit the share button again. You guys know the drill, but this is absolutely unprecedented. I've got Noreen. Thank you. You're back now. And but we have never seen this before when they have. Yep, that's right. This is unbelievable. I've never been interrupted in a show like this before, where they've stopped it and blocked it. Wow. It's never happened before, ever.
Wow. Can I just quickly jump in? I just want to send out a whole bunch of love to all you people who are out there trashing our efforts and working for the government to destroy your children's future too. I mean, you want to destroy this world, your progeny has to live here too. So I just want to send some love and some hope that we are fighting and we are trying to secure your future as well. Even as you destroy your own, we're trying to save yours as well. So, hey, you know what? Join us. You know what? Find a good line of work that supports and flourishes, helps us flourish, and you'll flourish along with us. Join us.
That's a great point, if I may interject, because
Amen.
Yes, I'd like to address this same group of people that is doing this to Billy and us, because understand that you may be paid. Obviously, this is your line of work to do this kind of interference and censoring, okay? But as Nick just said, okay, so you bring home a paycheck for doing this right now, but think about the future repercussions of what you're doing, okay? Listen very carefully. Like he said, the future repercussions on yourself and your family and your progeny or your descendants and so forth will not be good as a result of these actions. You may think this is just, I'm paid to do this, boom. And you think it's a simple act, but this simple act you're doing has humongous implications, okay? This is what people don't realize. On that note, I'm going to say this to, I mean, my listeners generally, we're kind of like, sort of on the same page generally. But to people that are not aware, okay, of what's going on, Billy, I'm sure you've encountered this all the time, and so does Nick and many of us. The other day I was on Reddit, but I was on a group that was, like a philosophical group, and this one person just had to tell me, you're spreading COVID misinformation, right? That kind of thing. I'm going to report you. And I was like, wow. And then this person had to use everything out of their hat. They had to say, I'm Jewish and, I was offended. Oh, hello?
Yeah,
I don't know
exactly right.
Yeah,
I can hear you, sis. Sorry.
Okay, this person, I don't know if it was a male or female, but just because I was saying that these COVID mandates are like Nazi Germany, communist, whatever, Russia, China, fill in the blank, whatever, okay? And then this person had to use that and twist and say, because I was just using that as just examples, of tyranny, however you want to view it or whatever, okay? But this person took it personally, they took that whole thing personally. Like, they just had to, like, attack this, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's how they do it, you see. They, instead of talking about the issue, they take it to the person, whether it's you or themselves. And Nick, I applaud you for sending the love out, because ultimately, it's amazing. Now I've got people telling me that they can't hit the share button on their pages to share me. So, and our broadcast today keeps bouncing, yeah. And so this is really, really, really troubling and deeply serious. I mean, I've got 53 people watching. This is wow. This is truly unreal. It's never happened before. But you're right. We've got to share, keep the love going, because and that's what it's about. So if they find us threatening, then they've got to take a good look at themselves, because what are we sharing here? Every bit of information I've shared tonight regarding COVID-19 information is from government sources. Not one of it was from my opinion. It's from the government, not anything. So what they're clamping down on is literally free speech, and it's not harmful free speech. This is about protecting everybody, them, us, everyone, Mickey Mouse, Daffy Duck. It's about everybody, protecting everybody. And, unfortunately, this is the whole thing about communism and socialism. They will not tolerate dissent from their message. They will not tolerate a counter opinion. They will not tolerate anybody wanting true freedom. It will not happen in their life. They will not permit it in their world. And that's the thing, people say, well, the Nazis were fascists. What were they? They were the German Socialist Workers' Party. What was communism? Started out socialism, went into full-bred Leninism, based on what? The Marxist ideology of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, and, which originated from Catholicism. The teachings of Rerum Novarum, the teachings of Thomas Aquinas are communistic in the heart of it. And so, what we need to do here, all of us, one and all, whether I agree with you or not, no, it doesn't come into it. Your right to disagree with me, I would defend as my right to say what I say. And that is true freedom. The moment we lose sight of that is the moment where tyranny can breed. And that's what we're seeing, to be in a position where we have a broadcast that's talking about love, peace, freedom, sovereignty, truth, stopping people from harming themselves, then what the heck is wrong with Facebook? What is wrong with the world we're living in when people can feel threatened this way, Noreen? Well, organizations, governments can feel threatened this way. And I want to say we had a very large protest in our capital, Wellington, today. And the people of New Zealand are telling this corrupt government, we will not tolerate it. God's not going to tolerate it. But there's an intermediary step before God has his day with corrupt humanity. And now, and in between that is going to be people actually standing up and saying, no, we are not going to be have our freedoms and rights destroyed. And New Zealand has finally taken that step today to show the government that we're not going to take it. Just like that old song. We're not going to take it.
Right.
Because,
that's great. Well, we've had lots of protests here in the U.S. and across the world, but I'm glad to hear that they finally stood up in New Zealand, because despite the real tyrannical actions of your government, people are just so fed up. They had to do it,
Well, exactly. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I've been involved in protests. I've been involved in all sorts of work to fight for rights and freedoms and personal sovereignty. I've been involved in it for 18 months here. But the problem is, we've had a lot of New Zealand people who just couldn't quite see it yet because they were comfortable. But what's happening is now, is that it's no longer comfortable. We have people losing their jobs en masse. We have people losing because they won't get the jab. We have people losing their livelihoods and businesses because of the economic destruction involved in it.
This is the same thing here and everywhere, yes, but it sounds really bad there too.
It is. It's bad. It's, Florida is way more free than New Zealand is.
Yeah.
Florida.
And Texas to some degree, yeah.
And Texas, and what we have here is that we've got a complicit social media company, i.e. this one that we're talking about, that's working with our government to impeach people that have free speech opinions. Now, this is unbelievable. I'm just looking at my Facebook page, and it says your video is blocked and cannot be viewed in 250 locations.
Wow.
How about that?
I believe it was blocked here because I couldn't see it live. I saw something like an older recording you did or something. Yeah.
Yep, it's gone. Yep, no, it's.
My God.
So the question is why? I've been slandered so grossly in New Zealand media. I've been slandered. I went from, I was painted as a woman beater. I was painted as someone who doesn't pay bills. As a hopeless philanderer. I was promoted as a violent man, to the point where strangers were ringing up my wife and saying if she needed refuge, please go to their place.
Oh my, this is so slanderous. It's unbelievable. Like you mentioned that in that bio. Yeah, you did.
And my wife would be saying to him, what do you mean? My husband is a white ribbon ambassador. He's an anti-violence campaigner. What are you talking about? Thanks for your care, but you've been fed a lie. You've swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. Now, and so this is just part of it for me, Noreen. It truly is. This is how it is in New Zealand. This is the reality of it. It's disgusting and despicable.
It's horrible.
Truly is. Yep.
I mean, I hate to say it, but it's almost like you're one of the forerunners of this agenda being really pushed quickly. I want to ask you, compared to Australia, because we hear a lot of horror stories coming out of there. So would you say you guys are kind of similar in how bad it is, or any differences, or
it is no, because the end goal is the state is that's been stated as the same, and so they've had obviously Melbourne has been completely destroyed through over 200 days of lockdowns. We've had 3 months, shall we say, right, and 90 that's 90 days. Now that's still a lot less than Melbourne, but the problem is that what we're seeing around us is the development of laws that have been brought in covertly, some being rushed in through Parliament, that are designed to really crack down on New Zealanders, and that's when we're going to see, I believe, unless I do a really good job of God's help, this is going to be Melbourne on steroids, because when this country blows, when this country blows, Noreen, there are loads of big men across this country that are very unhappy, and if they choose to go violent, it's going to be hard, and I'm working against that with all my might. And this is the irony of it all, is that the government don't realise that I'm actually helping to keep people sane and calm and hopefully with hope. And if they take that away, then it's going to be on their necks, because it won't be good, and I'm worried about it. I've still got friends in the military. I've still got a couple of friends in the police that will admit to be my friends, and I don't want to see them shot. I don't want to see people being shot, and I don't want to see people hurt. That's what they want. That's what they want. That's exactly what they want. It's exactly what they want.
But I have to tell you, unfortunately, in all these countries, including the U.S. and Canada, where Nick is at, they're doing it on speed where you're at. But the goal is to do it everywhere. And like I said earlier, they quote underdeveloped countries. They're going to be more down the road, right? Because their infrastructure and the whole thing is generally different. But we're like the first, you guys are like really on the front line of this in terms of being oppressed. We're not too far behind. But I do want to tell you, though, I know Nick might find this funny because there's always this kind of like subtle contention between Canada and US, but not in a bad way. But, you know, I just hear over and over that it's very important that the free world, and I'm going to have to say the US and Canada, it is important that we take the lead into really fighting for freedom. I mean, this is just how it is, okay? This is not like a pro or anti-American thing. It's just what it is. Probably because we have the history of the Constitution, which you guys have similar, okay, in New Zealand and in Canada. But I think it's important that we really, that's why we have to win, so to speak, in the countries that we're living in, because otherwise, if we fail in the West, generally, then other places are not far behind, because that's what we hear, right? I'm hearing from people in different countries and continents, I mean, not personally, but I read and they say, oh my God, you in the West, you guys, or USA or wherever, New Zealand, anything, you guys have to fight this, because if you don't, we're going to be susceptible to the same oppression, okay? So it is important that we fight this, absolutely. You know, and I am proud to say, and I think where Canada is true too, Nick, I'm proud to say that here in the US, we have had a lot of, you know, kickback protest. We've had a lot of fight against this. Like today, here, I live near LA. I live in Southern California. We had a big protest here in downtown. Now, I don't know if you know, LA is known to be very liberal, but there was still a big protest. So I think that, you know, people are fed up. Believe me, independent business people in LA and all over California and anywhere are fed up. You know, you said you've been to the US a lot. I don't know if you've been down here. Maybe you have been to Southern California. Yeah. So, you know, people are fed up. Nick, he's in Winnipeg, Canada, Manitoba. What is the latest in terms of, you were telling me recently about the mask mandates, and I'll talk about California after you, but can you update Billy and the listeners to his show and mine about whatever's new about the mask? Because you were saying that they kind of pulled it down for a while, that mandate, or what's going on?
Very briefly, for about 8 weeks, about 4 months ago, the mask mandate was lifted. It came back with a vengeance. I'm pretty sure that I don't pay attention to mainstream at all, but I'm pretty sure they were saying, oh, lifted the mask mandate and there's a spike in cases, so we have to bring back. A friend of mine, I've never worn a mask. I don't go shop. I do all my shopping online now. But I'm looking for a way to be able to walk into a store. They want to start hounding and harassing me about a mask. Here's what's going to happen if you don't back off. And here's what else is going to happen if you deny me service. This is discrimination, obviously. So I'm going to be setting that up pretty soon. I don't care who knows. A friend of mine was in the shopping grocery store I used to shop at. And he had both arms full of groceries. And his mask slipped out under his nose. And they have actual full uniform police officers there patrolling around the stores. And one of them came up to him and said, I'm going to have to write you a ticket because your mask is sitting below your nose. And he's like, look at my arms. I put it up if I had a free hand. He says, oh, okay, I'll let you go this time. So, you know, this is how absolutely ridiculous it's getting. And I mean, I just don't know how we've gotten to a point where we're such doormats that we can let him do this to us. Personally, I mean, I grew up believing this was a free country, although, you know, my own experience told me otherwise, but everyone around me believed it was a free country. Well, I'll tell you what, nobody believes it's a free country anymore. And that's, I think, why people are putting up with this.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and the point is that Justin Trudeau is cut from the same cloth as Jacinda Ardern. There are all these liberal socialists, young prime ministers and presidents that are just intent on one thing, and that's killing the entire, you know, atmosphere of freedom and capitalism and the right for people to pursue happiness and freedom for themselves and their families.
And it's funny when liberal means freedom.
Yeah, I know.
Another
It's an oxymoron. It's a complete oxymoron. It really, truly is. It's a complete oxymoron. It is. But unfortunately, the reality that we have here is that, they are determined to do it. I mean, look at Governor Newsom. I mean, what's that? What's going to happen? I mean, look, the liberals in California, they are, once they start hurting, they'll realize that socialism has no friends and favorites unless you're in the 1%. Once it blows into full communism, and even in that period between socialism and communism, and again, our Prime Minister was the president of the International, Socialist Youth Union of Socialist Youth. Their whole thing is about controlling everything. And that's why Agenda 2030, Agenda 21, Sustainable Development, were the perfect United Nations programs, because it sort of galvanizes all of the socialist issues that they need to control to bring in a technocratic, dystopian system of control, social credit system, universal basic income. You don't obey me, we turn you off at the bank. You don't obey me, you can't buy and sell.
Right.
Again, Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18 says that if you don't receive the mark of the beast or the name or the number of his name, you on your right hand or on your forehead, you won't be able to buy or sell. Now, there's a spiritual dimension to all of what the United Nations does, and in the core of it is Luciferian Mithraism, courtesy of the Vatican. Now, my family are Catholic, so I just want to disclaim that this is not about the people. This is about the system and the elite that run it, and it's across everything, and it's permeating through everything we're seeing today. I just want to point out, COP26 last week in Glasgow, in the United Kingdom. That is the really the pre-meeting, including the week before that with the G20 meeting. There are climate change lockdowns coming. Climate change is going to be the next epidemic, and Trudeau in Canada has already said it. They've written legislation to facilitate climate change and risk reduction lockdowns. And we've already got the beginnings of that happening in New Zealand. People are onto it, though we're doing our best to fight it. And but it's happening. We can see it. And for me, it's about really, truly, being honest about what we're dealing with. Being absolutely honest about what we're dealing with. Because if we're not, and try and reach these people that are, that are, as Nick said earlier, working for a paycheck to kill everybody and harm people and restrict freedom of speech, they really do need to look at themselves, because there is no, there's no excuse for it. There's no medical justification for it. There is no, there isn't. It's just, it's a scam. But boy, you think this is bad? The warm up. This is just the warm up. I hate to say it.
Unfortunately, I think you're right. It is. This is the warm up. Yes.
I really do. I wish I was wrong with all my heart. In fact, what people don't realise, they think I like to be such a smarty bum, but I don't. I hope I'm wrong. Every time I come out with something and I say, look, this is what I believe is happening. I was in mainstream media last year, being called by all the mainstream media a conspiracy theorist because I said they were going to bring in no jab, no job laws. I was hounded, I was bugged, I was slandered. But guess what? The government even said, our Prime Minister said, Billy's a blinking conspiracy theorist. There's going to be no penalties for people, that Billy is a nutter. Well, hey, presto. What have we got now? Literally tens of thousands of people losing their jobs right now. Literally in our little country. Getting ready. I mean, the 15th of November this week is a milestone date, because after that, if you are not injected, they are going to take your job off you. Welcome to socialist, communist.
Yeah, that's going on here. I mean, as you know, you probably follow, what's going on everywhere, and I'm sure Billy, that here there is a big controversy and pushback here in the U.S. in many cities because these jab mandates are just being pushed by, except for Florida and Texas or whatever. Yeah, some states in here in the U.S. are not participating in that mandate, but many are. Okay. Myself too. I have, well, I don't have the same situation I did in the past. Right now, I'm connected to a caregiving agency. I'll just say that. So I am, and it's not like I have a lot of phone or in-person interaction with the actual, what do you call it, the office workers, you know, and supervisors of the agency all the time. But I get the emails, and because I do the timesheets online, so the emails are telling us providers, our caregivers, I'm a caregiver, they say, well, you know, you need to get the jab by the end of November. Here is your exemptions, right? And they send these exemptions. But then you look at the fine print, or not the fine print, but the actual text, you start reading it, and it's like, it's not just about filling that out and sending it back. It's about, you have to also, send this in and get a note from your doctor and do a weekly test, whether it be an antibody or I guess a PCR or whatever, right? Whatever is going on. I've never gotten one. So, but yeah, weekly. And I'm thinking, no, I'm not going to do it. And I told my clients, you know, the people, or they call them the recipients. Okay, my recipients / clients that, you know, I'm sorry, but you know, I can't go with this. And they're not even jabbed generally. Some are, some aren't. So they're like, no, I get it. So I've been, you know, we're supporting each other on it, fortunately. But the thing is that, you know, I was talking to Nick and some other people about what should I do, you know, I mean, I'm not talking I'll get the job, but I'm saying, what should I do with this? I'm just gonna like keep working like nothing's happening, sort of, right? And until they tell me, no, I'm not even going to, send the exemptions in. I'm not going to submit to any testing. I'm just going to let it see what happens. And then if they let me go because of that, then, you know, I'll figure out, I mean, I'm not talking about the job, but I'll figure out how to fight it, because we're all in the fight right now. All of us, right?
Yep.
Nick is in a slightly different situation, but it doesn't, you know what? It doesn't even matter. You know what, Billy and Nick, think about it. It doesn't even matter if your job is literally on the line because of this or not, because somebody in your family, somebody in your friend circle, somebody, right? Somebody down the street, right? Whatever, or your fellow coworker, somebody is being affected by this, whether you got the job or not. Like, I have a friend listening right now. I'm pretty sure he's listening. He's in the same situation where his workplace gave him warnings, suggestions, right? Get the jab, blah, 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 right? On all types of ways. And he just said, he just said, okay, I'll get because I think one of them told me you got to get a doctor's note. He's kind of working on it, but not fast, because they're not even bothering him right now. See? So here's another thing, Billy. A lot of these smaller companies, they can't really afford to get rid of good people, and they know it. So they're under a lot of stress too, right? The employers. But the problem is that eventually, you know, if the fight doesn't ensue, then the government's just going to come in and go in closer and closer and say, oh, well, your company, well, it used to be 100 or more employees. Now it's going to be 50. Now it's going to be 20. And we're sending out agents to make sure that all your employees, whether it be 5 or 50 of them, are jabbed. Who knows? But yeah, everybody is affected by this. Everybody. And here's another thing. Even if you're fully jabbed and you believe in it, you know, it doesn't matter, because, again, somebody in your circle, okay, is going to be affected by this, and it's affecting the economy. So people have to start to be farsighted, right? Even if they believe in this, they have to be farsighted and say, is this helping myself and my family and my friends and my community in the long run? People have to start thinking 5-10 years down the road, okay? Because I think some people, you guys, they're thinking too immediate. Well, I got my jab. Well, I guess if people don't want to, they don't have to. Oh, things will go back to normal, though, somehow. No, we're on a road now where if we don't fight, nothing's going back to normal. Everyone's going to be affected in some manner. Because even if you got jabbed, do not even think, okay, that you're exempt from some kind of problem that's serious down the road, whether it be health or it could be other things, like you're going to be surveilled by Big Brother for something else you're doing, and not related to the jab, something else, and they're going to fine you and take away your bank account because you did something else they don't like, right? So this is way far reaching down the line, more than just COVID, right? So
Absolutely. And one of the things that we have here in New Zealand, which has been a bugbear, is that you have silo issue freedom fighting groups. You have people say it's about farming and issues. You got people that say it's about outdoors issues.
Sure.
Really, it's all interrelated, as you say here, Noreen. Very well put, by the way. And it's the chain that I spoke about early last year. And what we're seeing is the might of the algorithm being used against humanity. And with AI watching everything, trolling us, looking for
exactly.
CCP funded bots that all they do is just it pays for them, the CCP, psychological and intelligence operations, to attack anyone that is against communist ideals planetarily. It's whether you be in Sweden, whether you be in New Zealand, whether you be in Australia or America or what, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
No, and so what we're seeing is a completely dystopian, corrupt government system, governmental, because the thing is that to wrap the countries into the system of control they want to bring into, they only have to find elite people to agree with them, and then they roll out and execute their operation. And that's what we're seeing. You look at it in New Zealand, what's happening here. Nobody would have thought once upon a time that that we would have these laws that means somebody with a clipboard and a high vis vest can walk into your house and try and perform a medical, procedure on you. And so, this is you would never believe that in New Zealand. But the thing is that through the divide, they've been able to get it through, because what have they done? They've created the fear paradigm to mean that if you don't wear your mask, you're an enemy. If you don't get injected, you're an enemy. And yet the science, the logical science, says masks don't protect you. The information, the science, the easy to refer to information in the media, the government statements say if you get injected, it will not stop you from getting it and will not stop you from communicating it to someone else. So therefore, why would you need to participate in an experimental injection campaign? Now that's the primary issue, and who's propagating all of it? I mean, you look at the role Bill Gates has played. That man has got trillions of reasons to want to see this propagation. It's follow the money.
Yeah. The irony we were talking about India and Pakistan is that, he was more or less kicked out of India, right? Because he did experimental jabs on young women, and now they're infertile and all kinds of things. So he's not exactly liked. I have to say that's a good thing. When he started coming out supporting all this stuff last year, I did notice that even people that weren't really aware of everything what was going on with this, they had a visceral bad reaction to Bill Gates. You know what I mean? He became kind of like a negative meme, which is good, okay? But yeah, a lot of people are like, down with Bill Gates. And they didn't even really know much about all the science and stuff we're talking about with COVID and the job. They didn't even really know, but they're like, something doesn't feel right about Bill Gates, right? So he's not even really liked, thankfully.
Well, I mean, he's a eugenicist. He's the son of a eugenics family. I mean, he is what he is. I mean, there is no arguing about that. And when someone stands there and who has been caught out sterilizing African men and women and harming young girls in India with his injection campaigns, stands there and says he wants to reduce, the growth of population by 6 to 8 to 10%. Do we trust that same guy who's invested in none of the world's largest manufacturing companies of vaccines. Do we trust that guy to do that? Who also owns
Can we trust him?
No, and he's a major shareholder in Monsanto. You know, this is. You know, I'm afraid when I dug all this up, I couldn't. You know, it was with incredulity that I looked at the information and thought, it's in plain sight. How do we get people to look at it? It's in plain sight.
It really is.
It really is. It
Even
truly
Fauci,
is.
even Anthony Fauci, well, I will say he's gaining in unpopularity, thankfully, okay, but the thing is, you know, that was even a big joke, a big psyop and a big joke, Fauci, you know. It's just, it's so ridiculous. Oh, well, I didn't see it like that, but it's like.
Well, how does that, well, break it down to a simpler way of understanding it. Number one, you've got somebody, Bill Gates, lobbying the US government and governments around the world to take his injections, right? His mRNA injections. You've got him lobbying everybody. You've got Anthony Fauci, a senior executive board member of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who was in the presidential advisory team, heading it for President Trump, now Biden. Now, if that isn't a conflict of interest, then I don't know what is. Where you have someone making decisions and advising President Trump around Operation Warp Speed, which does what? Make more money for his boss, Bill Gates. So to follow the money and follow where it takes you, because the ultimate link between all of this is it's going to go from making money to empower organizations to control, strip money from the upper middle class all the way down, cripple the economies, cripple personal economic capability and freedom, cripple that, and then you'll collapse everybody into an area of dependency where you can do what you have with them and what you will with them. And what we have coming up, you know, if you watch the World Economic Forum statements, it is literally the plan of evil that they've got in there. You will own nothing and be happier in 2030. Right. You know, and what we have here with the World Economic Forum is just one arm of the octopus, with the head being the United Nations. But who's pulling the strings behind the octopus? And that's what I've been talking about for the last 7 weeks in my series, Peeling the Onion of Deception, which is on Billy TK Official at youtube.com. Please go there and have a look at it. And it's just amazing. We got
about 2 minutes. We got about 2 minutes left. I'm glad that you mentioned that. I was just going to say, I need to make a correction. My friend I didn't see this earlier. She said, actually, Sweden and Norway do not have jab mandates. We have a friend over there. He's still afraid of other things and the jab. But yeah, that's actually correct. So thank you on that one. You know, these things are ever changing. But anyway, we only got about a minute or so left. So Billy, I'm glad you mentioned that. And can you mention anything else that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, thank you. Just would love to build up my American listenership. Please find me at Billy TK at youtube.com. Billy TK Official, I should say. Billy TK Official at youtube.com. It's likely I'll get my Telegram account up and running in the next few days. Telegram, there's another platform, Freedom Village, which I'll also be freedomvillage.com. I'll also be broadcasting from, and Billy Te Kahika Official at Facebook. I don't know how long that Facebook is going to exist now. I've said nothing controversial to the facts tonight. It's all been freedom of speech stuff, so there's no fact checking they can get before. Why? Because the information around statistics is from the government's own website.
Okay, there's some music.
You know, there you go.
There's some music.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you so much, Billy.
My
Come
pleasure.
back to the show, okay? And thank you, Nick, and everybody. Yes, thank you. This is Noreen Helpman, Walden Hart Show. See you guys later.
Revolution